Welcome to Executive Care, and we're trying to do these videos more frequently because I think they're a great way to communicate. I'm able to say more things about the yards than what's just limited to the page. So we are at our golf links home, obviously, what we're talking about in August edition. And before I kind of get out of the way of the camera and show you the yard, I kind of want to paint a picture of before. The before pictures were very difficult because, as you'll see, the yard transitions from full sun, which is where I'm at right now. The sun comes right overhead, and this half of the yard is full sun, and then the other half of the yard is virtually shade all day, dappled shade. As the sun comes across, the shades move on the ground. This had a pronounced amount of trees, a lot of trees. There's quite a few were left on the upper ridge up here, which you can see. But there's also a huge tree right here in this corner where the crepe myrtle is at that had to be taken away. And it was those roots of that tree that affected the little cement patio that they had here. So now as we go into the yard, remembering that it's almost full. Right now we have some shade because it's about 11:45 right now. But come after lunch, this whole side where we're at is just baked by the sun. So this transition, these type of plants, you can tell by the different succulents I've used, the crepe myrtles, the asparagus. This guy is really cool. I like him. The roses actually do very good in the heat. The crepe myrtle loves the heat, but let's talk about the hardscape first. So right when I'm standing on, the prior patio came out to about here, the prior patio. And so we got rid of it, obviously. We had to pour new cement on both sides over here as well so it would butt up correctly. But this was the pavers they chose. I really like these. These are Positanos. Is the color scheme. Positano is the color scheme. But I like this particular pattern. It's not too busy. Like some paver patterns are very, very busy. This with the mega blocks, the big squares and all, it's not a busy pattern, yet it's really nice. So we debated on the size, and this is what we came up with between myself and the homeowners. They did decide, obviously you can see the fountain now. Obviously they did decide on the fountain. And as I mentioned in the article, there's different ways to build this fountain. You could have the high wall, so you can having a cascade here, and you can have a wall on that side, and it could be lower here. So there's different ways to do it, but this is probably the first pattern, the easier pattern, the less expensive pattern as well. But I'm going to be quiet so you can hear the sound of it. So it has a nice sound. It's not really loud, but if you're sitting here enjoying, they'd like to enjoy a glass of wine in the evening, it's a very pleasing sound. So let's move on from here. And let's go over to the Coroppia. Now the Coroppia, you're not going to appreciate the change of the Coroppia until we compare it to another video. So what we're doing is we're going to film here, and I'm going to point out how the Coroppia is. And then we're actually going to go in the same video right now to the job we featured last month, and you're going to see some major differences. So let's talk about this right now. So, in the shade, we need to get really close to the Coroppia. In the shade, you will see the leaf of the Coroppia changes distinctly. So when we go to the other house, the one we featured last month, and you can see the little flowers coming, pay attention to this leaf size. You will see that the other one is much more compact. But the main point is it doesn't have a problem growing. It stretches out like all plants do. If you take a plant that can handle sun, it can handle shade, in the shade, the leaf gets bigger of the plant to make up, because it needs to get so much sunlight. So the leaves expand to get the same amount of sunlight that it needs. Maybe you could say calories, sunlight calories, enough so it can get enough calories so it can grow. So this is how it's growing here. It's still filling in. We kind of put it in, and they have a little dog that kind of ran around and tore it up. So hence we have a fence here. And we just planted it about a week ago, so the smaller plugs are still needing to grow. So let's move forward. This is the flagstone patio we did for them. This is the little paver patio off their master bedroom, so they can come here. This is kind of their retreat. You have the pavers here, you have the spa. We poured the cement pad for the spa. And then they have the swing, and we did that aggregate. We used decomposed granite, not decomposed granite, bigger granite for this to have more of a natural look with the Carapia, and just landscaping. And in the article I mentioned part of the house had a slope. So here's the slope, that's phase 2. That will be coming. But as you come from my perspective and as you look down the yard, especially as the Carapia fills in, it's just really pretty. I don't like the fence, it kind of is in my way as I look at the yard, but it's there until it fills in because of their dog. But aside from that, it turned out great. It was a great project. It took about a month to change it over. And that's it. So thank you for being with us. And like I said, we're gonna go off right now and then we'll come back on to full sun Carapia, and I'll show you the differences. You'll be kind of surprised. But it's a great plant. It's just fitting into everything we're doing. All right, take care. Talk to you in just a bit. Welcome back. We just finished doing a Carapia video in the shade. Now we're at the other home. This is the home that we featured May and in June and in July. And we're back to look at this, how the Carapia is different in the sun than compared to the shade. So you just saw it in the shade, so now let's look at it in the sun and how it changes in the sun. Aside from that, this is also the same yard that we accidentally burned the Carapia, and I want you to see how quickly it's healed in. It's quite an incredible plant. So here we go, and if we get really close to it, then we zoom way down, look at the leaf and how it's changed. You can see the bees here. But look how the leaf has changed in full sun. It is probably, what, 1/5 the size that it is in the full sun? I mean in the shade. It's much tighter. It's more like a mound, like a ground cover. And it's just, well, doing really well. Has no problem with our sun. Here's a larger portion. All this shredded cedar. These are the ones that we just planted about 3 weeks ago. We put the cedar over it to protect it from the heat, because that's when it was super, super hot. And it's grown up through the bark. And it's on its way now to healing completely. But the leaf size, the compactness of the plant is dramatically different than what we saw in the shade. So it grows either way, but you can see the difference between full sun and shade. Aside from that, this yard has done really well. It's matured, it's come into bloom, the crepe myrtle, so it's super pleasing for me to come back and see our jobs. And so that's it. So thank you for going through this teaching video with us, and we know now that we can go in the shade, it can go in the sun, but it does adjust. It completely adjusts to the either or, but it can do well. Okay, talk to you next